Lauer has the exclusive details as he digs deeper inside Strippergate.
At 320 pounds, it's hard not to notice bodybuilder Tony Montana. In 1999, when Montana walked into Cheetah's strip club in Kearney Mesa, they noticed him right away. Montana became close friends with club manager John D'Antino, the right-hand man to strip club mogul Mike Ghilardi in Las Vegas. What nobody knew was that Tony Montana had a long history of working as an undercover snitch for the FBI.
It's just a job. It's just a job. Nothing personal.
Montana started working for the government in 1993, shortly after he was arrested for steroid distribution in Georgia. The federal charges against him were dropped, and he's been a paid informant ever since. Over the years, Montana has worked for the U.S. Customs Service, the Drug Enforcement Agency, and the FBI in Atlanta, San Diego, and Las Vegas in cases ranging from a murder-for-hire plot to drugs and weapons investigations. But working undercover at Cheetah Strip Club would turn out to be Montana's most high-profile assignment ever. In 2000, Montana started wearing a body wire, full-time as he worked his way up to chief of security at Cheetah's.
Tony Montana wore a hidden microphone for almost 3 years, recording meetings and conversations here at strip clubs in Las Vegas and in San Diego.
No court order is required for an FBI informant to record conversations with a body wire, but once you start wearing one, according to former prosecutor Charles Labella, you don't stop.
You've got to record all the conversations that cooperating witness has, because if you start picking and choosing, the defense will certainly say that the ones that you didn't record were the innocent conversations or the explanation conversations that we had that make what you did record less sinister.
Montana recorded thousands of conversations, some indicating that drug deals and prostitution were happening at Cheetah's, although no charges were filed. He also recorded things unrelated to the Strippergate case, conversations that suggested that someone in the San Diego Planning Department was taking bribes, that a police officer was helping out Cheetah's in some way, and that a club manager was paying off a Department of Agriculture official. None of those leads panned out either. Defense attorney Gene Iredale, who once represented a Cheetah's employee, says the fact that the recording went on for so long sends up red flags.
For an informant to wear a wire for 3 years when nothing's happened for the first year or year and a half suggests that you're investigating something that doesn't need to be investigated.
Iredale says Montana had a financial motive to find a crime that would stick, maybe even a political corruption scandal.
If you're going to get paid several $1,000s a month, if there is a crime to investigate, or you're going to get nothing and have to work for a living, you're going to try to do your very best to make sure that the agents are interested and that there is something to investigate.
Eventually, Montana's undercover work did lead to indictments against 3 city councilmen in San Diego and a strip club owner in Las Vegas.
What happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas.
Tony Montana denies he has a financial motivation in this or any other investigation. In fact, Montana says that he makes more money as a personal trainer than he ever did working undercover for the FBI. Phil Blauer, Local 8 News.
Tomorrow, the Cheetah's connection to illegal machine guns when Local 8's exclusive Inside Strippergate investigation continues. That is tomorrow, once again, on Local 8's News at 11.
San Diego's former police chief is the newest candidate. Andre, thank you. Well, tonight we're closer to having a jury seated in the Strippergate trial at City Hall. More than 25 prospective jurors were excused today, narrowing the pool to just over 100. The judge says 32 prospective jurors will be randomly selected tomorrow. Those selected will be asked about their backgrounds. The jury is expected to be seated by Friday, with opening statements set for Tuesday.
We know about allegations of political corruption inside the FBI's Strippergate investigation.
But there is another side to this case, one that did not involve San Diego City Councilman. Phil Blauer reports on the Cheetah's connection to illegal machine guns.
One thing should be clear about Cheetah Strip Club is a lot more was going on there than just women stripping.
What was going on at Cheetah's was gun dealing. Fully automatic machine guns, handguns with silencers, highly dangerous weapons that, according to secret wiretap recordings, strip club owner Mike Ghilardi was interested in buying.
And I think these weapons going through that business and being negotiated there and being sold there is proof to that today.
Back in January 2004, the FBI's San Diego office proudly displayed a collection of automatic weapons that were confiscated as part of a Strippergate investigation. Agents called it one of the largest seizures in Southern California history. The feds first learned about the illegal weapons in April 2002 during a wiretapped phone call between Ghilardi and his right-hand man, Cheetah's manager John Diantino. Diantino is recorded saying, quote, "I got a guy with Mac 11s. Ghilardi asks, Mac 11s? Diantino responds, yeah, fully automatic. Ghilardi asks, legal or illegal? Diantino replies, illegal.
5 days later, the FBI secretly videotapes a meeting between Diantino, Ghilardi, and strip club lobbyist Lance Malone. They were looking over the guns here at a Rancho Bernardo gym owned by paid FBI informant Tony Montagna.
Montagna, who had infiltrated Ghilardi's inner circle at Cheetah's, was wearing a hidden microphone. During the secret recording, Ghilardi asks about the machine guns. Quote, "How do you effing shoot these, John? How do you hold them? Just one hand?" Diantino replies, "Before I make the deal, you gotta test drive them." Ghilardi, "Take him out to the desert and shoot him." Ghilardi wants Montagna to deliver the guns to Las Vegas, but before he does, Montagna finds out about 20 more illegal weapons being offered for sale by Diantino. Concerned about public safety, the FBI gives Montagna $40,000 to buy the illegal guns, and Montagna turns them over to federal agents. None of the guns ever hit the street.
The man who sold the guns to John Diantino and Tony Montagna is now serving an 11-year federal prison term. Arizona resident Charles Tappy apologized at his sentencing in federal court as his family broke down in tears. Phil Blauer, Local 8 News.
There is no evidence that the city councilman charged in the Strippergate case knew anything about the gun deals going on behind the scenes.
A Camp Pendleton Marine caught on tape shooting an apparent.
Opening statements are underway in the City Hall Strippergate trial.
City Councilman Ralph Nzunza and Michael Zucchet are accused of accepting thousands of dollars in bribes from a strip club owner. Local 8's Phil Blauer is live downtown with the latest in this corruption trial. Phil?
And Santa Barbara Lee, both the government and the defense today basically outlined their respective roadmaps as to what lies ahead in the Strippergate trial. Jurors first got an hour-and-a-half presentation from the prosecution, and then it was the defense's turn to strike back.
San Diego City Councilman Michael Zucchet and Ralph Nzunza said nothing as they walked into federal court for the first day of the so-called Strippergate federal corruption case. The government accuses the councilman of taking bribes from Cheetah strip club owner Mike Ghilardi in return for help in repealing the city's no-touch nude dancing ordinance. During his opening remarks, Ralph Nzunza's lawyer, Michael Panzer, said jurors had been misled by what they heard from the prosecution. Panzer says the monies were legal campaign contributions that were properly reported. He told jurors that politicians are, quote, lobbied all the time. It is appropriate. It is part of our free system of elections. The veteran defense lawyer assured the jurors, quote, there was no extortion, no arm twisting, and no promise of anything. Related to the charges in this case, the government claims that Ralph Nzunza received $9,900 in campaign contributions from Mike Ghilardi, his employees, or his associates. They say the late Councilman Charles Lewis got $8,250, and Michael Zucchet was given $5,000. For his part, Zucchet's attorney, Gerald Coughlin, said, quote, this was an evil conspiracy, but Michael Zucchet was never part of it. He told the 8-man, 4-woman panel that Zucchet's top priority was to get rid of adult entertainment businesses at the entry to Point Loma in the councilman's district. Coughlin said, quote, if he was corrupt, it would have been so simple to offer him cash to see what would happen. He then called him, quote, an innocent person who was unaware of this broad conspiracy.
Michael Zucchet's attorney will continue his opening remarks early tomorrow morning. He'll be followed by the attorney for Las Vegas strip club lobbyist Lance Malone, that's Dominic Gentile. Now, coming up new at 6:30, we'll hear some of the remarks from the prosecution's opening statements today.
All right, Phil, we'll see you then. Thanks.
In court today, the government reported the amount of money that all 3 city councilmen are charged with taking from Ghilardi and his associates. Those dollar amounts are significantly less than the amounts initially alleged by the government. The higher dollar amounts that Local 8 reported last week were based on the wiretap investigation conducted by federal agents. Prosecutors would not comment today on the discrepancy between the contribution totals.
San Diego City Attorney Michael Aguirre is urging city employees to roll back their pension.
The Strippergate trial of 2 city councilmen accused of taking bribes is officially underway. Prosecutors told jurors Ralph Nzunza and Michael Zucchet took thousands of dollars from a strip club owner. Phil Blauer is live downtown with today's opening statements.
And Kathleen, there was certainly a lot of information for jurors to comprehend on day one of the so-called Strippergate trial. Both the prosecution and defense presented outlines of the respective cases. The day that San Diego City Councilman Michael Zucchet and Ralph Nzunza have been waiting for, they confidently strolled into federal court in day one of their so-called Strippergate corruption trial. The government accuses the pair of taking bribes from Cheetah Strip Club owner Michael Ghilardi in return for help in repealing the city's no-touch nude dancing law. In opening statements, prosecutor Paul Cook told the jurors the alleged actions by the politicians was a, quote, corruption of the political process. Cook told the panel seated before U.S. District Court Judge Jeffrey Miller, quote, the defendants, in their own words, planned this scheme. As far as campaign contributions received from Mike Ghilardi, his employees or associates as they relate to this case, the government says Ralph Nzunza got $9,900. The late Councilman Charles Lewis received $8,250, and Michael Zucchet was given $5,000. Ralph Nzunza's lawyer, Michael Panzer, says jurors have been misled by what they heard from prosecutors. Panzer says the monies were actually legal campaign contributions that were properly reported, and he assured the panel there was no extortion, no arm twisting, and no promise of anything. Michael Zucchet's attorney, Gerald Coughlin, said this was an evil conspiracy, but Michael Zucchet was never part of it. He went on to say Michael Zucchet was an innocent person who was unaware of this broad conspiracy. Michael Zucchet's lawyer continues his opening remarks early tomorrow morning. The trial will be lasting each day from Tuesday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 1 or 1:30.
All right, Phil, thank you very much. City employees are being asked to give back some of their pension. Testimony continued today in the so-called Strippergate trial of two San Diego City councilmen.
On the stand today was FBI informant Tony Montana. Local 8's Phil Blauer joins us now live from downtown with more on today's testimony. Phil?
Stan and Barbara Lee, we learned a lot about Tony Montana today. We learned what his real name was. We learned how much money the government paid him in their investigation. And we also learned about how close he became to Cheetah Strip Club managers there and also the strip club lobbyist who tried to get him to help influence San Diego politicians in this case. As he strolled into federal court, paid FBI informant Tony Montana knew his criminal past was going to be exposed. Prosecutor Robert Chiaffa told jurors that the bodybuilder was involved in check forgery, drug dealing, and illegal arms trafficking before embarking on a decade-long career as a government snitch. One legal analyst says Montana's tainted history will be an easy target for the defense.
They want to make an impression when they cross-examine this witness that he is so uncredible that they shouldn't listen to anything he has to say.
Montana, who worked undercover wearing a hidden microphone in the Strippergate case for 3 years, says Cheetah Strip Club bosses gave him cash to an undercover vice cop who would then tell them when the club would be raided. That activity followed the passage of the city's no-touch nude dancing law, which took a bite out of Cheetah's profits. However, that vice cop, just like Montana, turned out to be on the government's payroll. In secretly taped recordings played to jurors, Cheetah's owner Mike Ghilardi is heard asking if he can give the vice cop a monthly fee for his tip-offs. Cheetah's manager John D'Antino is then told by Ghilardi to give him, quote, a couple of grand. Montana, who recorded the conversation, says it all happened. Some of the informant's other testimony dealt with meetings with strip club lobbyist Lance Malone. Montana says Malone discussed relationships with San Diego politicians and that Malone asked him at one point to set up ways to get the councilman campaign contributions that wouldn't appear to come from Ghilardi or his strip clubs.
I'd feel to finally take the stand.
You expect me to answer you?
No comment on Mr. Montana. You can draw your own conclusions.
And that response came from Gerald Coughlin, who was actually Councilman Michael Zucchet's attorney. Tony Montana returns to the stand early tomorrow morning. He's expected to testify over the next several days.
All right, thank you for that, Phil.
An Encinitas woman upset with red light camera.
See you then. Thanks.
For the first time, wiretap recordings in the City Hall Strippergate case have been released.
They give an inside look at the federal corruption case against 3 San Diego City councilmen. Local 8's Phil Blauer has the tapes recorded inside Strippergate.
Beth and Kathleen, before the Strippergate trial is over, more than 200 secret audio recordings will be heard in court. They're being played for the jury, and now for the first time, the public gets to listen to them as well. The tapes go back to the early stages of the FBI's corruption case, linking 3 San Diego City councilmen to the owner of Cheetah Strip Club and his associates. FBI informant Tony Montana infiltrated the strip club and wore a body wire for almost 3 years. Agents recorded telephone wiretaps as well, Like this one from April 2002, where Cheetah Strip Club lobbyist Lance Malone talks with Montana about raising campaign contributions for the late Councilman Charles Lewis.
I got to raise Charles Lewis about maybe $3,000 or $4,000.
Sure. When and where?
But